Good evening. Those of you who are in attendance, we're happy to see you. If you would, please take a moment to check your cell phone to make sure that you have placed it on silent or vibrate. And for those participating remotely, we also welcome you. Members of the public are asked to place their microphone on mute during the meeting, with the exception of any public hearing. At the appropriate point in the meeting, I will invite the public to unmute their microphone for purposes of submitting such comments as they may wish to make, one person at a time. All persons making public comments will be asked to first state their name and address for the record, and after completing the comment, members of the public are once again asked to place their microphone on mute. And we thank you all for your cooperation this evening. With that, if you would, please join us in rising for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Hazen?
Here.
Mrs. Volker?
Here.
Mr. Carroll?
Here.
Mr. Benicki?
Here.
Mr. Emmons?
Here.
Ms. Hahn?
Here.
Mr. Mamalenti?
Here.
Mr. Violi?
Here.
Mr. Hixenbaugh?
Here.
All council members present in the chambers.
Thank you. Approval of the minutes of our regular meeting of May 19th, 2025. Are there any additions or corrections? Then hearing none, the minutes will stand approved as received from the clerk's office. Petitions, communications, remonstrance, and memorial.
Yes, Mr. President. We have a presentation of the annual operational report for local roads and streets and bridges from the Controller's Office. The report was prepared by the Street Department and reviewed by Engineering and Finance.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the council with regard to this document? Then hearing none, the record will reflect that the document has, or the report rather, has been presented to the council pursuant to Indiana law. This evening, we have no report of any special committee, so we'll move into ordinances on first reading.
Proposed ordinance number 2025-13, an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Mishawaka, Indiana, amending the municipal code, defining methods of payment accepted by the city.
Proposed ordinance 2025-13 will be assigned to the Budget and Finance Committee. Resolutions.
Resolution number 2025-14, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of Mishawaka, Indiana, making a final determination and confirming the designation of areas within the City of Mishawaka, Indiana, known as 919 Cleveland Street, as an economic revitalization area for the purpose of real property tax abatement.
Thank you. We will now open the public hearing on proposed resolution 2025-14. Anyone wishing to speak in favor, please come forward.
Good evening, President, members of the council. Derek Spear, City Planner. Offices are located here at City Hall. This resolution before you tonight is a confirming resolution that has been filed by United Pet Food for a real tax abatement. As was previously mentioned 2 weeks ago, when you consider the declaratory resolution, United Pet Food Producers is proposing to demolish their existing warehouse building and build a new 69,000 square foot building north of their main facility. Currently, they will demolish their 33,000 square foot building, which was constructed back in 1958. WellPat has received 3 other personal and real property tax abatements from this council between 2014 and 2021. With the current request, they are proposing they will retain 101 employees while adding 19 new jobs because of the direct result of the investment. Similar to the previously approved abatements, we're recommending a 5-year abatement for a standard phase-in, so it would decrease 20 years annually over the life of the abatement. And for this resolution, we've proposed a tax analysis. It's a back-of-the-envelope analysis, so it's an estimate. So what we've done is we've used a 60% assessed valuation, which is anticipated for the overall construction cost of the project. So if it comes in at a 60% AV, the actual assessed valuation would be $3.2 million. And if this was the case, the company, over the life of the abatement, they would pay $215,000 in taxes, and they would have an abatement resulting in $323,000. And also with us tonight is representatives from the company, if you have any questions for me or them.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Spear? Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor? If you would, please come forward. Seeing no one, is there anyone participating remotely who wishes to speak in favor? Is there anyone with us this evening who wishes to speak in opposition? Please come forward. Then is there anyone participating remotely who wishes to speak in opposition? Are there any council members who wish to speak? I just want to thank Mr. Spear for the information that he put together and the work that he and staff have done on this. Since it's mentioned in, now has been mentioned, at least in the documentation, in 2 consecutive council meetings, I'm certainly in favor of this abatement, and I'm pleased that this company is willing to continue to invest in Mishawaka, particularly since it's your sole location in North America. So that means something to me. The staff report 2 times has referred to some future abatement requests, and it harkens back to some discussions and some conversations that we've had with the predecessor to this corporate entity in the past. I'm interested to learn more about that, but I think it's going to be important for us as a council and for the community to hear what's going to be different this time around. What additional certitude can you provide us that that's going to be that will come to fruition. So again, I appreciate the investment and the commitment that you're making in Mishawaka, and I look forward to that conversation as we move forward. So with that, are there any other questions or comments? If not, then I call for the question.
Question.
Madam Clerk, would you please poll the council?
Mrs. Hazen?
Yes.
Mrs. Volker?
Yes.
Mr. Carroll?
Yes.
Mr. Benicki?
Yes.
Mr. Emmons?
Yes.
Ms. Hahn?
Yes.
Mr. Mamalenti?
Yes.
Mr. Violi?
Yes.
Mr. Hicksonball?
Yes.
The resolution passes 9-0. Resolution R 2025-15, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of Mishawaka, Indiana, declaring certain areas within the City of Mishawaka, Indiana, known as 1420 Industrial Drive, excuse me, to be an economic revitalization area and economic development target area for purposes of personal property tax abatement for Jamil Packaging Corporation.
Thank you. We'll now open the public hearing on proposed resolution 2025-15. Anyone wishing to speak in favor, if you would, please come forward.
Good evening, President, members of the council. Derek Spear, City Planner. Office is located here at City Hall. This is a declaratory resolution for a personal property tax abatement that was submitted by Jamil Packaging. Their facility is located at 1420 Industrial Drive. They manufacture corrugated paper boxes, custom retail displays, and they also distribute shipping and packaging supplies. It's a family-owned company that was founded in 1974, and they've been in the city since 2002. It maintains its Midwest operations here in Mishawaka and also has Southeast operations in Tennessee. They have received 3 other tax abatements, also personal property tax abatements for equipment between 2006, and then their last one was in 2019. With their current proposal, they are proposing to make a capital investment of $4.85 million for new manufacturing equipment. This will include a new stacker and conveyor, and with the equipment, it would allow them to become more increased capacity for printing and become more efficient because they would no longer have to feed material through a system twice. If approved, they are committed to immediately ordering and beginning installation of the equipment this month, with anticipation of completion by October of this year. Their facility currently has 179,000 square feet of manufacturing space, and they have 131 people. Employment has remained stable over the years, decreasing only slightly from 139 employees when the last abatement was approved in 2019. Their current payroll is approximately $6.8 million, which is actually $1.9 million higher than their total payroll in 2019. Wages for the hourly workers are between $16 and $23, with a blended average of $24. As a direct result of this investment, they are proposing 9 new jobs, which would bring up their total to 140 employees. Hourly wages for the new hirees is projected at just under $20, with the total salaries for the new employment to be just under $300,000. And like we did for the last abatement, we have prepared some back-of-the-envelope analysis. We're recommending a 3-year phase-in, so it would be a standard phase-in, decreasing 33% over the life of the abatement. With a projected 60% assessed valuation, the new equipment would be assessed at approximately $2.9 million. And if that assessment is accurate over the 3-year life of the abatement, $174,000 would be abated while they would pay $87,000. And this is the first step in the process, so if the declaratory resolution is approved tonight by the council, we'll come back in 2 weeks for the confirming resolution. And Dave Duro, who is the president of the company, is also with us this evening if you have any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Spear? Real quickly, it's not ordinary that we would have 2 tax abatement requests back-to-back in one council meeting. So just to avoid people assuming that we maybe have more tax abatements active than we currently do, I don't have your spreadsheet in front of me that you typically distribute, but in round numbers, how many abatements do we have active at this point in time?
I think we're down considerably. I think we're only down to maybe 3 active abatements, if I remember correctly from when I did the
I believe you're
compliance
correct.
reporting.
And that's, as you mentioned, considerably fewer abatements than we've had in the past.
Correct. We've had fewer submitted over the last 2 or 3 years.
And even though we've had fewer submitted, we have talked for years, and I believe it's still our philosophy, that we're very judicious with regard to the abatements that we approve. Would you agree with that?
Correct, yes.
And it has to be something that the benefit outweighs any negatives with regard to the abatement that we grant and approve, and it has to be in the best interest of the community, correct?
Correct.
Thank you. Any additional questions for Mr. Spear? Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor? If you would, please come forward. Then is there anyone participating remotely who wishes to speak in favor? Is there anyone with us this evening who wishes to speak in opposition? Please come forward. And is there anyone participating remotely who wishes to speak in opposition? Are there any council members who wish to speak? If not, then I call for the question.
Question.
Madam Clerk, would you please poll the council?
Mrs. Hazen,
Yes.
Mrs. Volker,
Yes.
Mr. Carroll,
Yes.
Mr. Benicki,
Yes.
Mr. Emmons,
Yes.
Ms. Hahn,
Yes.
Mr. Mamalenti,
Yes.
Mr. Violi,
Yes.
Mr. Hixenbaugh.
Yes.
The resolution passes 9-0. Resolution R 2025-16, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of Mishawaka authorizing the investment of public funds pursuant to Indiana Code 5-13-9-5.
Thank you. We'll now open the public hearing on proposed resolution 2025-16. Anyone wishing to speak in favor, please come forward.
Good evening, President, council members. Rebecca McGuire, City Controller. This is an annual item I bring forth each year. It allows me to invest in CDs at depositories throughout the state of Indiana, so we are not limited to just St. Joe County.
Thank you. Any questions for the controller? Mr. Violi.
Do we get a different rate since we're a municipality on those CDs, or is it just whatever the bank rate is?
It's bids. We go out for bid,
Oh, okay.
so we get the best rate we can.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you, Becky.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor? If you would, please come forward. Then is there anyone participating remotely who wishes to speak in favor? Is there anyone with us this evening who wishes to speak in opposition? Please come forward. And is there anyone participating remotely who wishes to speak in opposition? Are there any council members who wish to speak? Mr. Carroll.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. On this one, given the profession as a financial advisor, I'll need to abstain from this one.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the council? And hearing none, I will call for the question.
Question.
Madam Clerk, would you please poll the council?
Mrs. Hazen,
Yes.
Mrs. Volker,
Yes.
Mr. Carroll,
Abstain.
Mr. Benicki,
Yes.
Mr. Emmons,
Yes.
Ms. Hahn,
Yes.
Mr. Mamalenti,
Yes.
Mr. Violi,
Yes.
Mr. Hixenbaugh.
Yes.
The resolution passes 8 with 1 abstention.
Thank you. We'll now move into ordinances on second reading.
Proposed ordinance number 2025-10, an ordinance amending Chapter 137 of the Municipal Code of the City of Mishawaka, Indiana, as from time to time amended, commonly known as the zoning ordinance of 1966 of the City of Mishawaka, Indiana. This is to rezone from C1 General Commercial to R3 Multifamily Residential, to allow 7 family residential buildings with 20 dwelling units at 2400 and 2406 Schumacher Drive.
Thank you. May we have the committee report, please?
Yes, Mr. President. To the members of the Common Council of the City of Mishawaka, your Committee on Land Use Planning, to whom was referred the matter of proposed ordinance number 2025-10, report that they have examined said matter and that in their opinion should be adopted. This is signed by members present, and I move for its acceptance.
Second.
Thank you. A motion has been made and seconded to approve the committee report. Any additional questions or comments from the council? Then hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. With that, we will move into second reading and public hearing on proposed ordinance 2025-10. Anyone wishing to speak in favor, if you would, please come forward to the podium.
Thank you, council members. My name is Michael Knight. I'm an attorney at Barnes & Thornburg in South Bend, Indiana. With me today, and I represent Freed Capital LLC. With me today is Seth Freed. He's the manager for Freed Capital, and Terry Lang from Whiteman & Associates, the surveyor and engineering firm on the site plan so far. Mr. Freed lives in Mishawaka and is just about a quarter mile away from the proposed development. He seeks always to be a good neighbor with this, and he wants to answer any questions today. This is a down zoning request, meaning we're requesting to rezone part of the property from C1 to R3. The part of the property is already R3, so that's consistent. The C1 zoning is consistent with zoning to the south as the commercial area C9 for a car dealership, across the street, light industrial zoning. To the north is all R3 multifamily zoning. We seek to fit right in with an R3 multifamily development, and that's why we seek to change in the zoning. All the units will have their own separate parcel number. We hope to sell all the units separately as new housing for Mishawaka. All the units have their own driveway and have their own garage. Public parking spaces are already included in the site plan. They are not required by any zoning or other regulation. We're going to stick with all the other regulations. We're going to meet a 35-foot height requirement. We're going to build single family in the northern part, single story in the northern part of the development out of concerns for the town and country, out of concerns for the town and country residences that will abut us on the north side. There are really only 2, maybe 4 residences that would be considered neighbors to it, because the upper triangle of this development is going to be kept open and or for drainage. So we're not really going to have neighbors on the north side, town and countryside, except for 2, possibly 4 units. The neighbors on the Main Street side, the east side, have made no comments, and we've met extensively with the town and country folks, and I think they're here tonight. But we're changing it from a wooded area now. It's sort of unkempt. And what we're doing is we're trying to put in 20 new units, 7 buildings with 20 units in it. Some are going to be two side-by-sides, and some are going to be 4 quad units. We remove the wooded area, and we're going to build in multifamily. It matches the area to the north, and there's single family on Main Street. We don't expect much new traffic. There's only 20 units. All departments have reported favorable to the Plan Commission staff. The staff reported and twice approved and recommended approval to the Plan Commission. It's been to the Plan Commission twice. Once it passed out of the Plan Commission, and again, for this time, I think it's coming from the Plan Commission with a no recommendation, with a negative recommendation for it. There's no harm to the surrounding property values. We're going to clean up and promote public health and safety. It's a good buffer for the business districts. The way it's currently zoned on a C1, there could be almost anything there, a whole lot less desirable perhaps for neighbors in the neighborhood than this multifamily development, which is consistent with the neighborhood to the north. We're willing to accept covenants. I believe Mr. Freed has submitted a letter to the council saying that he's willing to accept covenants. He's really willing to control size, number, privacy fencing, rental practices, all to be covenanted so that this is a nice neighborhood. I've been asked, what's the law state about this? And zoning is an interesting negative, if you will, on the free use of private property. We all enjoy, and common law was always for the free use of private property. Zoning came around about 100 years ago. There's an old case in 1926 that supports the municipal corporation's ability to regulate. Now, why are they regulating? The primary reason to regulate is to keep compatible uses near compatible uses. You don't want huge industry next to residential. You don't want farming operations next to residential, although typically a lot of what comes first is certainly allowed. So what we're asking for is keep the incompatible uses away from one another. Frankly, keep out the commercial zoning, add a little more R3 zoning, so you get this development, you get construction, you get new housing, you get jobs, and it just fits better with the neighborhood, and it's going to be a very nice development there on Schumacher. So for these reasons, and we'll answer any questions, we ask the council to vote approval of this minor zoning change from C1 to R3 because it fits. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Knight? Mr. Violi?
Well, for Mr. Knight or for Mr. Freed?
Either one.
Either one.
Actually, my preference would be to finish with Mr. Knight, and then if Mr. Freed wants to step to the podium, or if you have some questions, then we can move into the second speaker.
I do not have any for Mr. Knight.
Okay. Mr. Mammolenti?
Thank you, Mr. President. I know the last time we had recommended meeting with the residents in the surrounding areas. I've been told a couple of those meetings have been held. Could you confirm that and what was discussed at some of those meetings?
Yes, I can confirm that, and if I may, Mr. Hicksonbaugh, allow Mr. Freed to answer that question.
Since now two of my colleagues are interested in more interested in speaking to Mr. Freed than they are you, Counselor, who am I to stand in the way of that? So yes, Mr. Freed, if you would please begin with your name and your address for the record.
My name is Seth Freed. I live on 131 East Borley, Mishawaka, Indiana.
Thank you.
Mr. Mammolenti?
The question was about have you met with the local neighbors?
Yes, a few neighbors and the board members of the HOA, Town and Country Estates, and then also a few other neighbors and businesses that are just south and west of the property.
Okay, and how did you advertise that you were hosting the meeting, or neighbors were invited to come and to attend?
So reached out directly to Karen Grove, who is the president of Town and Country Estates, and then Dixie Mason, spoke with her. That's not in the HOA, but just a neighbor that's lived in the community for, same house actually, for 52 years. Yep, so.
And you feel that you were able to answer most of their concerns?
Yeah, I feel like we did to the best of our ability, and I mean, made some revisions from the original time going through the process. Heard what they had to say, kind of tweaked a few things here and there, and I feel like we came to a good common ground with where the plans are set now.
Well, regardless of the outcome this evening, I appreciate your efforts to take our suggestions from the last time and meet with the folks and try to come up with a common ground, so thank you.
Yes, sir. Thanks for your guys' time as well.
Thank you. Mr. Violi?
Mr. Freed, just some background for me, because I was not on the council 2 years ago. When did you purchase this property? I was just curious.
2013.
2013?
Sorry, 2023.
Okay.
Forgot a decade. My bad.
And
Still in high school at that point.
I got you. So at any time since then, even after the meetings the prior 2023, have you tried to sell it as is, or have you not had it on the market, or have you tried to, after the last meetings in 2023, have you tried to sell it?
We haven't listed the property, just knowing a few real estate people. We've tried to lease the property as a C1. Didn't have much luck in that. It's not on a busy road, there's not a lot of foot traffic there, so to be a C1 property isn't ideal, I guess, for smaller businesses trying to grow in the area. It's more of for an established company.
And to be transparent, you, Karen, Mrs. Grove, invited Councilman Hicksonball, myself, and I think Ms. Hahn showed up for one of your meetings, but we've been invited to a couple of those meetings, and I appreciate that, that we were invited. And one of the big questions, as I recall at those meetings, was there was some confusion at the beginning or earlier this year on these villas, rent to own versus rent or own. Has that been cleared up, and can you do you remember that? Am I reading that correctly, or remembering that correctly, I should say?
Yeah, yes, sir. It was either misspoke or misunderstood, or I'm not sure which one, but they will either be rented or they would be for sale to owner, not rent to own.
And I'm speaking just of the villas, not the properties that are going to be on the south side.
It would be for the whole development. So
The whole development.
everything would either be for rent or for sale. We wouldn't do a rent to own on either the north or the south.
So even the 2 stories on the south side, you're going to offer for purchase?
Correct,
Outright
yeah.
purchase?
Yes, sir. All 20 units would either be, mix and match of both, or for rent, for sale.
Okay,
If I may, councilperson, that's why they're in all the separate parcels right now. They all have separate parcel IDs.
I think I forgot that fact. So and when you start building, and you say rent or own, how long after, let's say that first building is built, whichever side, how long are you going to try to sell it before you say, hey, I have to get some revenue, as you're a business person, and you list it for rent? Or will you ever do that, or are you going to how's that going to work?
The business plan right now would to be listed either way. If going through and we're able to sell them prior to completion, that would be ideal. If we get to completion and we get occupancy, the plan would probably just be to list it for rent until we get an offer for.
So you're never going to say it's own first, and then if you don't sell it, you're going to rent it. You're going to put it out there from the very beginning, rent or own, as you go along.
Correct, yes,
Okay, so we don't have to worry about you sitting on it and then saying, hey, I tried, I can't sell it, so now I'm going to rent it. It's going to be from the get-go, stay that way consistently.
Yep, for all 20 units, yes. Sir.
Okay. And are you going to try to come up with a plan where you're going to list them all together and say, here's the site plan, or are you going to go try to sell them one at a time, or how are you going to try to sell them?
Are you
What's
referring
your
to
game plan?
construction or sale?
Say that again?
Are you, Councilman, are you referring to the
Yeah.
phasing of construction or the phasing of sale?
Phasing of
And
sale.
gentlemen, I'm going to interject here. We want to hear from both of you, but it makes it difficult for the clerk to keep accurate minutes if we have speakers switching in midstream. So let's finish with Mr. Freed, and then Mr. Knight, if you have some other comments, you can take the podium again.
Similar to new construction or development you see, down in downtown Mishawaka, during construction, say for leasing, for sale, and from the beginning, it would just be listed, available, say October 1st of whatever year we're
Okay,
planning to finish.
so you're going to have like a sign of some type? I don't know if originally you said you weren't going to have a sign that for sale, or are you going to just put it on the internet? How are you going to try to sell these units?
Yeah, there's multiple avenues. You can list for rent or for sale. Probably not listing them on the property, but it would be online, multiple different avenues of just promoting both.
Okay. And and you are set with your financing. Now, you don't have to get us into the details, but you're set with financing for this project?
Yeah, we've been in communication with Horizon, which is financing the property currently with the C1, with the building there now.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Freed? Mrs. Hazen.
Hi. My first question is, as far as selling these, do you have a range of pricing?
Pricing, we've looked, or just based on comps in the area of condos, it's kind of hard in Mishawaka. We're looking at $275 to $325. That's current value. Obviously, once the development would be completed, those could change, hopefully in a favorable position.
Okay, I can tell you that I have been discussing this project with many people, realtors, mortgage people. The city of Mishawaka is in desperate need of homes, single-family homes for sale that are in the 300 range or below. One gentleman I talked to, his firm, and I forgot my phone tonight, believe it or not, but his firm, he was telling me it was like in the range of, they have 64 pre-approved buyers ready, but there's just nothing out there to purchase. So I would be very much in favor of, hopefully you'll be able to sell these, and these will be homeowners. I think we have a lot of properties for lease in our city already. I assume in the price range. Mr. Violi had given me some price ranges, but I guess I should ask, what would the price range of leases be?
Just based on comps again,
Yeah.
looking at new construction, I've seen them upwards of 2,500 to 3,000, which I don't think that's the case for us. We were looking closer to $1,800 to $2,200 in rent.
Okay. And then, and again, I got a lot of information from Mr. Violi, so I don't know if it's right or not, but
Probably
No
not.
fact checks.
sorry about that, Tony.
That's all right.
But anyway, he was saying the single story he thought were 3-bedroom, 2 baths? Is that?
So based on a few things, that's the plan, is to be 3-bed, 2-bath.
Okay.
We've been exploring the option, as Matt had mentioned, of a city road there.
Right.
That would actually limit the amount of space we would have for the first 2 units on the north side. So we would have to explore 2-bed, 2-bath for those units, but the plan would be 3-bed, 2-bath
Okay.
for all of the units, yes, ma'am.
And then that was the other question I had. Was it going to be a city-owned road, or were you guys going to be responsible for the snow removal, all of that, or has that not even been probably figured out yet?
I tried to figure it out the past couple days. I can't commit to the city
Yeah.
road or the private drive.
Okay.
As of today, I wish I could, but that's not something I was able to put together, so I apologize.
Yeah, I personally, not that it really matters, I just know that we really do have a need for home ownership, so it'd be great if you could sell them all. I think that's it.
All right, thank you. Ms. Hahn?
Just a little bit more clarification on Councilman Violi's question, and a little bit on Ms. Hazen's. Would you prefer all of these be sold? Because you said each individual unit could be sold or it could be rented. So just for example, if 2 people show up and one wants to rent and one wants to buy, what would your preference be?
Probably to sell. As a developer, if you're looking to you're looking to develop, and then if we're able to sell them all, and hands off and still be, in and out as pleased with an HOA or establishing one for the 20 units, that would be ideal. But to sit on 20 units for, say, 8 months and we can't sell them, there, in my opinion, has to be a pivot into another option. So that would be
So
the renting.
renting really is the second choice?
Renting would be the pivot, yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Mrs. Volker?
Thank you. I just had a couple of quick questions. First of all, I know you have done, this is a comment, not a question, but I know you've worked really hard on this over a long period of time, and I just want you to know that I appreciate that. And I'm sure you've spent a fair amount of money as you're going through the process. Are you a realtor?
No, ma'am.
Do you have a realtor that's working with you?
I have a couple friends that are realtors, but we haven't solidified on who we would use to sell.
So if this project if the rezoning is approved and you go into this construction phase, you do plan on using a realtor
Correct.
to market?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. It would
I just
not- it would
wanted
not
to
be
make
me.
sure, because it sounded a little bit fuzzy on the marketing plan, and you're using a realtor, a professional realtor, who will know how to market these things.
Yes, ma'am.
So my other question is, if you needed to lease a unit, who's responsible for the maintenance?
So that would fall under myself, or we would use a management company.
Okay, so you wouldn't necessarily be the property manager yourself, or you would be the property manager?
Yeah, I would manage the property. I have a few other properties in the area that I do manage, but, one of them being the commercial building that's there, which no one's there currently. But I would manage the property, yes.
And would it be your plan at some point for the HOA fees to cover maintenance?
Management, yes,
Okay.
ma'am. So if they're rentals, the rent would cover the management. If we had to, or if we were selling the units, the HOA fees would cover the maintenance side.
Okay.
Exterior, similar to Town and Country Estates, they have ordinance with monthly fees for siding, roofing. I believe it's snow plow, salting, things like that, snow removal.
Right, okay. Okay. All right, thanks. I think that's all I
Yes,
have for
ma'am.
now. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Carroll.
Thank you, Mr. President. So appreciate you talking some about the road. Just want to elaborate a little bit on that. If you do go to a private drive on this, talk to me a little bit about how you see the repair, upkeep, snow plow, all of that of this road, that it's kind of a public-private partnership, right? Our emergency vehicles have to get there, our trash trucks, that type of thing. So, we've had issues where there are private roads that don't give access to the city in snowstorms and things like that because they have HOAs that have gone defunct and other issues like that. So if you do have some that are owned by you and managed by you and some that are homeowners, how do you see that working?
Just planning. If it's taking the HOA fee and using that as part of the rent and using it just as saying the renters are part of the HOA, or adding a fee onto the rent and lowering the rent just to make sure it's all smooth sailing, that would be the best way, in my opinion, the research that I've done with the HOA with owners and renters.
So would you have any control over those owners if, say, half the units were owner occupied, if they just said, we don't want to pay our dues anymore, which has happened in the city? Whose ultimate responsibility is it in that scenario?
That would be myself and the HOA. As the developer, it'd be myself that would have to take care of things
Okay.
until everything would be sold, and then the HOA would be.
So as long as you're in there, even if you have one unit, you're committing to, no matter what the HOA decides to do and who gets elected president and what they're, you're committed to using your own funds to make sure that that road is plowed and taken care of for our city?
I'd like to be most involved as possible, yes, sir.
Okay. And then something that was brought up for your consideration, if you do go the private road instead of public road, because to me, public road solves all this, now it's
I
less
agree.
profit for you and all of
Yeah.
that. But if you do go that route, would you be open to, as part of deed restrictions, making sure that the homeowners bear personal responsibility for that, even if the HOA goes defunct? The problems we're seeing is that the HOAs, and we talked to some, Mr. Triple about this, but it creates a legal issue to where if they walk away, you can't sue anybody, you can't really go after them for code violation because that belongs to the HOA that doesn't exist. So if it's at all possible for you guys to record that in the deed, that if the HOA does not take care of this, the homeowner is responsible, is that something you'd be willing to look at
I'd
to
have
give
to
a
converse
guarantee?
with Mr. Knight, but it sounds, in my opinion, it sounds reasonable if there's a mix of both.
Okay, and that's really where my big hangup is. I just want to make sure that with this public-private partnership, 20, 30, 40, 50 years down the road, it doesn't create an issue for,
Yeah.
safety.
I'm not committing to either one. Like I
Sure.
said, I'd love to explore the city road. Like you said, it would be less cost to the developer long-term, more upfront, but
Yep.
could have pros and cons both ways, so.
Sure. No, I appreciate it.
Yes,
Thank you.
sir.
Thank you. Other questions? Mr. Evans.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to thank you for all your work in giving us the idea of what you want to do and why you want to do it, and then in meeting with the constituents out there. But if this is rezoned, and then, do you have any interest or desire to sell this to another developer?
No.
So you're going to maintain this yourself and not sell it to another developer?
That's the plan, yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions? Mrs. Hazen.
Sorry, I have one more question. If you do have to rent, are they going to be long-term rental? What are the leases going to be? Or are you going to do short-term rentals?
The plan would be long-term. So everything I own now, there's long-term tenants. So we've got two tenants have been there one's been there for 5 years, the other's been there for 4. And then the last one, which is on Imus, which isn't far from the property either, she's been there for 4 years as well.
So you do like a yearly lease usually?
Yeah, yep,
and then-
one annual lease, and,
then-
2 years if they'd consider it, but that's not
Right.
common.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
thank you.
Other questions or comments? Mr. Mamalante?
Just a quick clarification question regarding Mr. Emmons' comment and question. Isn't it correct that whatever stipulation is passed this evening, that stays with the property? So if you were to sell it to another developer, that new developer or owner would have to follow the rules and guidelines of what was passed this evening, correct?
Is that a question for me or Greg, sorry? Or Mr. Hicksonball?
I just wanted anybody
But
to
I
answer.
believe that is the case. If whatever we have in our written commitments.
I guess the question would be, I could address it to
Okay.
Mr. Triple. How about that?
Yes,
All right,
the commitments would be done with them.
Tied to the property.
right.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Freed? Then any other questions for Mr. Knight? I do have one question for you, Mr. Knight,
Yes, sir.
which usually ends up being 2 or 3, so I apologize in advance. With regard to the written commitments that you referenced and that were just discussed, to follow up on Mr. Triple's answer, is your client willing to pay for these written commitments to be placed in final form and recorded so that they will run of record along with the title to the property?
Yes.
And you may have mentioned this in your earlier presentation, and I'll apologize if I missed it. I want to make sure that the commitment that is referenced in the staff report, which is limiting the building height to 35 feet as opposed to 120 feet, is within your understanding that it's reflected in these written commitments that you've provided to us. Do you believe that that commitment that was requested by the planning staff is also incorporated in the document dated June 2nd of this year that we've been provided?
If it isn't, it will be, yes.
You anticipated my question.
We anticipate agreeing with it. I believe it's included. I think it is in the staff recommendation, and we have no problem with it.
All right. Thank you, and thank you for your patience with me as I tried to keep us on track procedurally. Any additional questions for Mr. Knight? Mrs.
I do
Volker?
have one more.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ms.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mrs. Hazing.
Yes.
My apologies.
No, that's okay, mine. Do you have a time frame? So let's say we pass this tonight. Like, are we talking, how long will this be come to fruition?
So the original plan was to start within the first year. That was 3 years ago. And now I didn't get any commitments from contractors or anybody since it's, still kind of unknown. I would say we're sitting in 2025, middle of the year, to break ground completely in 27, 28 would be a realistic timeframe.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for either gentleman? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor? If you would, please come forward to the podium.
Hello. I state my name and address.
Please.
Malcolm Cabello, live in 123 Greenwood Court. I recognize my fellow Town and Country Estate residents aren't going to like me for this, but I'm just going to speak how I felt ever since I learned about these plans. I wasn't able to come to the last meeting. I'd meant to, but I wasn't able to. But I watched the recording on YouTube, so thank you for posting that, by the way. And even after watching that, and after even meeting with Mr. Freed a couple of times, I really am in favor of these plans. I think some really good points have been made, one being the alternatives to the housing project. I think one of the council members had mentioned it could potentially be a vape shop or something else, or an add-on to the car dealership. I think this seems like the best use of the land, in my opinion. I know there's concerns about them potentially becoming rentals. As Councilwoman Hazen mentioned, there's a big need for housing in the Mishawaka area. I don't think everyone wants to live in the suburbs on the edge of town. I think there are also a lot of people that want to live in condos, like in our neighborhood, and I find that townhouses in our neighborhood sell quite quickly. I would be surprised if these 20 units didn't also all become owner-occupied. I sincerely doubt that they will become rentals. I think Mr. Freed will fill them with homeowners as he wishes, and yeah, I think that will be a reality. Of course, that's just a guess, a hunch. I don't know that for sure, but that's just what I think. I've also, having heard that, you know, the homes that he owns have been rented by people long-term. I feel good about that. I know that Mr. Freed lives pretty close by. I think I looked up his address and it's about a half mile from ours. I know he's not an out-of-state slumlord trying to just rack up a bunch of properties to make profit. I do get the sense that he does want to develop the community and build up more. And I know a lot of people don't like to hear the word density, but I'm a city guy. I personally like that. I know I'm the dissenting opinion on that right now, but I really am in favor of this new development. And being someone who's somewhat similar age to Mr. Freed, I can sympathize with him being younger. I kind of want to see younger people be given an opportunity like this. So ultimately, I just want to say give the man a chance.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the council? Mr. Emmons?
Yes. I'm sorry, I didn't get your address.
123 Greenwood Court. Greenwood Court.
Okay, thank you.
Actually, on that, if I may just say one more thing real quick. Having spoken with some of my neighbors, that we live on the last cul-de-sac, and I recognize from last cul-de-sac on Northwood Drive, I recognize that we are the least affected by this project. I totally get that. But that said, we also live very close to Remington Court, and we've never had any issues with that apartment complex, and it's considerably more units than what's being proposed here. So I know they're not here to speak about that, but I think I speak on behalf of everyone else on our cul-de-sac that we don't really have an issue with more rentals or more rentals or owner-occupied units being built nearby. So I just wanted to add that disclaimer.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? Ms. Hahn?
Mr. Cabello, I just wanted to thank you for coming out tonight and following along with what's going on in your neighborhood and watching the YouTubes and just being involved and talking to your neighbors and being brave enough to come up here tonight and maybe not say the popular opinion, but to take time out of your schedule to be involved in your
Of course,
community.
thank you. I thank Mr. Free for being so available to answer a lot of questions because I had some concerns, of course, and after speaking with him, I feel even better about it than I did from the beginning. And I was already on board with this. So.
Thank you. Anything else from the council? Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor? If you would, please come forward. No problem.
Terry Lang from the Whiteman Company, 1402 Mishawaka Avenue in South Bend. I've been working with Mr. Freed for the last 3 years trying to get this project put together. And I'll answer any questions you have with regards to the site plan itself. But personally myself, with regards to what Councilwoman Hazen was talking about, I had inherited a house a couple years ago. I decided to put it on the market this last weekend. On the market for 6 hours. I had 300 views and I had 12 couples come through the house in just a short time. There is drastically a need for housing in the city of Mishawaka. And I think Mr. Freed's development is something that would be a benefit to satisfy some of that need as a local resident owning the project and being a part of it. It's not like you're working with a developer of putting in 500 apartments and they're located in California someplace with a property manager on site. So I just wanted to share my experience, what I'm seeing in the city of Mishawaka, and that was just in the short time that it was online. I advertised it myself through Zillow, and huge number of people responded, and then a dozen couples came out, and right now I'm trying to pick who I want to sell it to. So it's a good problem to have, but it's a problem that the city of Mishawaka is facing. Thank you, and answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Lang? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor? If you would, please come forward. Then is there anyone participating remotely who wishes to speak in favor? Is there anyone with us this evening who wishes to speak in opposition? Please come forward.
Hello, thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. My name is Rick Long. I live at 113 West Leyte Avenue in Mishawaka, which is part of the Town and Country Estates. I'm not going to go into all the reasons that some of the residents are opposed, but my main thing is the traffic concerns. We have the car dealership on Schumacher, or it's on McKinley, but the cars are loaded on Schumacher. The truck parks on the road on Schumacher, unloads cars there. This happens, a few times a week, I would imagine. Seems like every time I go down there, I see one unloading. And then we have the pallet factory, and I believe there's some other industrial there that I couldn't tell you exactly what they are, but there's semis there in the road all the time. I mean, I've seen people sleeping there, waiting on the factories to open. And they park right where the entrance to this development's going to be. So it concerns me with children and, with the semis right there in their neighborhood. And just today, I happened to be out in my front yard, and I looked down the street, and I saw this semi, and they come down our street. It says no trucks, but they come down our street all the time. There's a semi trying to negotiate the stop sign at Leahy, Imus, and Schumacher, and it was having a real hard time. It was backing up down Leahy. I don't know what his plan was, but he finally stopped because his car came up behind him, and then he took off down, finally went forward down Imus. So we're having problems with that kind of thing now. This is going to be worse with, maybe 40 more cars living in the neighborhood with these residents. Let's see, and that's a common thing. The semis use Leahy to get back to McKinley or Main Street because that's the direction they're facing already because they've turned in off McKinley. So the light becomes, at Leahy and Main Street, becomes backed up. We have, the light is really slow for Leahy. So if you ever gone down that street, it's not unusual to sit there for, it seems like an hour to me anyway, but it's not quite that long. But you sit there, and, it's not unusual to see a semi there and then a car and a car and a car. And I just think this is going to get even more backed up if this all we have is this one entrance into this complex. Now, we could change the timing of the light. I thought of that at Leahy and make it quicker. But then you have more stoppage on Main Street. I just think that would adversely affect Main Street because that traffic's going to stop, and I don't know how it's, they're going north on Main to get, out to the restaurants and shopping and all that. That seems like, it could be an issue. The other thing is even if those trucks do turn around on Schumacher, or myself in a car, I've experienced this, but I've gone down Schumacher and I want to turn east onto McKinley, and I can't see. You have to pull out, and sometimes too far into the intersection to, that's more than what's safe. So I pull out there, and, you can't see if the cars are coming in because the car dealer's there. They got their cars lined up. They're selling cars and everything. So I don't know if this goes through, maybe a turn lane could be put in there, something like that. But it just seems very dangerous that people are going to be coming out of that complex there and turning. So what are they going to do? They're going to go down Leahy again, and again back up at the light to get around, go down Main Street to get on McKinley. There's cars wanting to go east on McKinley or north or south. They're going to find it easier to use Leahy just because you don't have to cross the traffic. the light, and if it remains like it is, it's really going to be traffic backed up on Leyte. And if we speed it up again, retime the light, then the people are going to realize, oh, it's faster to go this way. So there's still going to be more traffic on Leyte. So I see there's a no-win situation for this traffic. The other thing I wanted to say was I moved here into this. I've had family in Mishawaka just forever. They've always been here. I've lived in and out of Mishawaka most of my life, at least been in this area most of it. I moved into Town and Country Estates in 2019, and my thought was I'm close to everything. I got all these restaurants, shopping, everything. I don't have to go very far. My wife and I are getting older, so we were thinking this is going to be great because we lived out in the country. But I'm still in a nice, quiet neighborhood. There's, the traffic is not that bad. The people are nice and everything. And I just feel that this proposal takes that away from me, and it makes me sad. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from the council? Mr. Benecki.
Yes, Mr. Long. So if we don't make this housing, in your opinion, what would be acceptable on that piece of property?
That's not, I don't know. I'm happy, and I know it's not going to stay the way it is. I understand that. 3 houses, 4 houses, 1 single-family dwelling, a street down the middle, a couple of houses back there, that would be fine. A city park would be nice. There's people talking beforehand, there's really no place for kids to play in that area without crossing one of the major streets.
Well, we're spending millions of dollars on Normain Park, so that's going to be a beautiful park.
Okay,
when it's done.
but they have to cross Main Street to get there. The children do.
It sounds like some of the traffic concerns need to be reported to the city for enforcement rather than.
They will.
It doesn't sound like that development is going to be the issue. It sounds like you have some issues right now with the semi-traffic, and I think that's where it needs to be reported to the city.
It's not all semi-traffic, but you're correct. But it's not going to get any better because of this. I mean, it's going to be twofold, at least, with all this extra traffic coming through.
Now, during different times of the day, do you notice different amounts of traffic? I know that during peak times it can be tough, but I mean, after like 6 o'clock in the evening, I drive in that area all the time, and it's just not as congested as it is during the day. Would you
Sure.
agree with that, or do you think that's?
I agree with that.
So-
And I think anywhere, probably after that time of day is that way.
So, I mean, there are some peak times that there's going to be problems, but we've got that now. And it's, being city streets, it's hard for us to control people cutting through. And we know that they run that stop sign all the time, and, we've had some enforcement there as it is. But I just don't know that, there was just 5 houses built on 5 very small lots in my neighborhood, which is right across the street from your neighborhood. And them houses sold very, very fast. They're 1,300 square feet on a slab and $279 all day long. And there is a huge need for it. So the reality is, while it may seem like it's a lot, that's a pretty big area for 20 units. I mean, 4 or 5 is that's a lot of property.
I kind of disagree with that. I see, what is it, 2.8 acres? It seems like a small area especially since it's landlocked on 3 sides. So there's only one way in and out of there as it stands.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the council? Mr. Mammolati.
Thank you. I just had one quick one regarding the semi-truck traffic.
Sorry.
Looking at some diagrams, I'm assuming that the semis have to back into docks, correct? So they're basically perpendicular to Schumacher, is that correct?
No.
No.
I've
they unload?
never, they pull in, I guess I'm not talking about the semis pulling in, and maybe they, I don't know that there is a dock there. There's a big overhead door that they get loaded with a forklift with there, but generally, you see the trucks parked on Schumacher, just on the street.
So are they getting unloaded and loaded while they
Sometimes.
remain on Schumacher?
I've seen them, yes. Yeah. I'm not saying all of them, but yeah, some of them do pull up to the overhead door, but it's not unusual to see one on the street getting loaded with a forklift.
Well, I would second Mr. Benicki's comment and definitely address some of those concerns with the city traffic department. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Violi.
Just, I live on Omer Avenue, so I'm not in that district, but I'm pretty close to where you guys, and I appreciate all that you have said. My only thought is, you know, you're talking about traffic of, like you said, if there's 20 or 40, whatever, it's not going to all be at once. You know, that people are going to go to work. But what I'm really afraid of is, at one point, from what I understand from the year's prior vote and even earlier this year, the biggest concern was not traffic, and I guess I've never thought of it like you stated tonight, but we didn't want rental properties on there, and now it's not going to be that, so now we're going to traffic. What I'm really concerned is if he didn't do anything and says, well, I'm going to leave it commercial and I'm going to put a little mini mall, mini shopping center with a Subway, which he could do without coming to any of us for permission, an insurance agency, you know, there used to be a Pizza Hut there. And then what I'm concerned is if we don't do something, if we let it go and he decides, well, I'm going to just do this, then you're really going to have a traffic issue, in my opinion. And I just wanted to reiterate what you're saying about the traffic, but I'm worried what would happen if we go to a commercial retail establishments where there might be a lot of cars going in and out, whereas, you know, this is going to be a family unit or people go to work or retired people. I don't know if there's going to be the traffic flow that you're worried about. And I totally agree. I didn't know this problem was existing in the area with these trucks. I agree with Mr. Benicki and Mr. Mammalani. We really should have the city look at that. That's more of a city issue than this development issue. But okay. I appreciate you bringing that to my attention is my point. Okay. Thank you.
Well, and I appreciate what you said. Sorry, I lost my train of thought.
No, you're all right. Aren't you glad you were the first one to come up and speak?
Yeah, we're good, I think. Okay. I'm sorry, I did.
Go ahead.
I didn't bring up the issues of sale and versus rental, which, you know, we prefer home ownership, definitely, sure. As, you know, but I just wanted to speak on this issue alone. I didn't want to speak on, you know, just everything.
I understand.
I'm sure there's plenty of other people that would like to speak, so.
I understand. Well, I thank you, because to me, it's always been the question of rental versus ownership. I never really thought of the traffic, so in a way, I'm thanking you for bringing that to my attention, but just thinking out loud, where would the real traffic issue be as if it wasn't residential, other than staying the way it is, which, let's just be honest, that's not going to happen. You know, it's just not going to stay a wooded lot forever, unfortunately, I don't think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, though. I appreciate your help.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? If you would, please come forward.
My name is Paul Kelly, and I live at 2705 Northwood Drive, directly north of where the proposed development's going to be put. I moved from Massachusetts 13 years ago, and I like to call myself a proud Hoosier, if you'll have me. When I was in Massachusetts, I was a realtor for many years. And I have a couple of concerns that upset me. You probably know the statistics of what's the name of our place? Town and Country. There's 54 structures, 108 units only one of those 108 units have children, and that's because the units are very small. My unit is 800 square feet. It's 40 by 20. My mortgage is low, which is great, but the units are like that. There was one sold on Lady Street, I was under agreement. It was 720 square feet. No families can live there. That's one concern. I'll touch that in a minute. But my other concern is that us men don't last as long as the women. So I checked with the people on the board, and half of that 108 units are currently occupied by single women, elderly single women, 54 units. That's my big concern, is safety. As I look at that project, you know the dimensions probably, but from McKinley Street, which is just south of where the proposed thing is, up to the end of the Northwood Drive where I live, up north, is about 7/10 of a mile. And from Main Street to Grape Road is 7/10 of a mile. So you've got an area there of a half square mile. It's not very big. And as has been discussed, there are no parks. And yes, you're going to put another park, but he's going to have 3-bedroom units. He's going to have a lot of children. The kids are going to have to cross dangerous streets. I see the walking pattern. We already have wonderful people from Shoemaker and the other part of Shoemaker and Lenson, and they come and walk our neighborhood because we live on a dead-end street. It's quiet, it's beautiful. We've already got a lot of dogs that come through, and they don't clean up after the dogs, and that's fine. Our tenants get blamed for it, but it's usually the people that don't live on Northwood Drive. And, you know, I see the patterns. I see there's no parks, there's kids. What's going to happen when teenagers get out? They're not going to walk and cross the streets. If they want to take a stroll, and a couple of years from now when Indiana decides to legalize marijuana, they'll probably take a walk and smoke a bone with their friends. And where are they going to walk? Right up Northwood Drive. It's a dead-end street. It's quiet. What the heck? Somebody mentioned Greenwood. I was a cab driver, too, when I first got out of the Army. It's for 8 years before I got into real estate. And somebody mentioned Greenwood Court. That's the far end. Let me tell you, one of the method of operations, if you want to go rob a house, is you park somebody at the end of a dead-end street, and then you go and with a cell phone, and then you go rob the house, and you got the cell phone, and if they see a cop coming, they get out of there fast. So nothing is safe in that. So those are my concerns. I think, I love Mishawaka. The parks are incredible. I mean, I love this town. Mayor Wood, and so I think they've all done a great job. But this is just not a place where Mishawaka needs its next family neighborhood. It just doesn't fit. It's risky. It's not worth it. I knew lots of real estate developers. I don't have anything against development, but I just think this is trying to take a square peg and put it into a round hole. I know Mishawaka needs some more units. We've got to have some space that's better than this one, and that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from the council? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition, if you would, please come forward.
Good evening. I'm Ellen Bystrom. I live at 153 West Leyte Avenue. Our property will be directly adjacent to the property that they're talking about developing. I have had major concerns throughout from the very beginning, and will acknowledge that Seth and his team have come up with answers to some of those concerns we had. I recognize that they have conceded to put only one story on the north side, which would be adjacent to our property, and a few other things. But in general, that piece of property, the 2.8 acres, I don't really think it's large enough to accommodate 20 units and the comings and goings of those families. And as someone already stated, it's landlocked. That's why as a commercial property, no one has bitten on it. I've lived in that property for 10 years. It's landlocked. There's only one way in and out. So having 40-plus vehicles, school buses, trash vehicles, all the different utility vehicles that come in to read meters, et cetera. That's a lot of additional traffic on, which is a questionable whether it's a private drive or a city road. And today's the first I've heard that discussion. One of my questions, and I don't need an answer now or if you don't have it, but I noticed that there are no fire hydrants on Schumacher Drive. And if you're going to put in 20 residential units, I don't know how that works. If it's a city road, does they also then have to run the lines for the fire hydrants on the city road? If it's a private drive, do they have to provide that coverage a different way? Maybe someone can answer me that question later. But I just think it's very congested. And as, again, someone already mentioned, but if you're marketing to 3-bedroom units, you're marketing to families. I have one of the children that you mentioned that live in the neighborhood. My grandson, he's special needs, and he has very limited space to play. And riding his bike, he can go down Lady around the corner to Schumacher on the sidewalk. We don't allow him to play in the parking lot there at the property because, number one, it's probably just not safe for him to be because he can't be seen. And there are a couple other small children in the neighborhood that I've seen. And we have the elderly who are out walking and people walking their dogs. So all of that additional traffic in and out of a single space is a concern to me. If you have a truck who's unloading his cars for the Jeep dealership, and maybe you have cars parked on Schumacher because they're guests of people who are on Lady and they're parking on the side street because it's more convenient for them to park there. Maybe you have a school bus coming down to pick up kids. All of a sudden, you've got a very congested area. And then you've got 10 or 20 other cars trying to come and go to get to work. So they're going to be in a hurry. They're going to continue to blow that stop sign. We see that now. So I guess my question is maybe even to the developers, if you're going to develop this, then you're going to have that many more units and that many more vehicles. What will you do to be able to work with the city to make that a safer intersection? I know that several of us in Town and Country Estates have individually tried to contact the traffic department and so forth about flashing stop signs or speed bumps or things like that. And pretty much when an individual calls, they just say, oh, we can't do that. So maybe a developer could have better input in that area. And then the other thing, in reading through the covenants, I know you did say in the covenants that you would put a privacy fence behind our properties up to where the retention pond is, and we haven't talked about that today, but I believe the retention pond is right behind my next door neighbor's home. And at one point, they had said they would fence that as well, but the covenants only say that the privacy fence will go to the retention pond. There was nothing in there about keeping the retention pond fenced so it's safer for the community. So I guess those are really just my comments and questions. If anybody has any questions for me?
Thank you. Any questions from the council? Thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Please come forward.
Hi, thank you for letting me speak. My name is Kim Burgon, and I live at 2725 Northwood Drive. I have a problem with the amount of units that are going in and the possibility of rental. There is 2.8 acres, and I'm not sure, so forgive me, on what the acreage is they're going to reserve for retention, but that takes away the acreage, so you're packing in that many more people in a smaller area than a full 2.8 acres. Not to mention the cul-de-sac turnaround where they're planning on putting the dumpster at the end of the cul-de-sac. If you have 20 units within a 2-acre area, that is a lot of units. During today when Mr. Freed spoke, he has no plan for a realtor, but yet, he says that he will sell them if he can sell them. But he's not come forth with any positive plan or intention of selling, because if that were the case, in my opinion, he would have a realtor saying, okay, well, we have this, so let's try to sell them. Let's market to sell them. If you truly have ambition or intention to sell, wouldn't you already have that in part of your plans? Well, I have a realtor, we're going to list them. He said that he wasn't planning on putting a sign on site that they're for sale. So how are people, not everybody is going to specifically look to purchase an entry-level home online. There's still older people that might want a home that's in an association that aren't necessarily internet savvy. And they might be driving, oh, I like this area, but they don't see a for sale sign. So that's just a couple of my thoughts and concerns that have risen tonight. That if he truly is wanting to sell them, maybe in those definite plans, he can have a contract with a realtor to market those for sale rather than just, okay, these are for sale or lease. And there were multiple questions this evening that were brought to his attention that he couldn't give a definitive answer yet. Well, I don't know. Well, if this has been in the works for so many years, I would imagine if you're planning on putting millions of dollars forth, that you're going to have a stronger plan and know more what you want to do. So I think that he doesn't want to sell them. I think he wants to hold on to them for rental because that's long-term rental income. And anybody that has rentals knows if you have good rental income and it's residual, it's a good thing. Selling it, building it, selling it is not a residual income. That's all I have.
Thank you. Any questions from the council? Thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Please come forward.
Hi, my name is Dana Wilson. I live at 118 Woodland Court, part of Town and Country. I have a question on how this could affect our property taxes. If they're looking at, if they are looking at selling them for $275,000 plus, how is that going to affect Town and Country's property taxes? Mine have already doubled, or actually tripled since I first bought in there. And it's because everyone's value keeps going up, which is great, but how much more is it going to go up now? So that's a concern. I again have the concern of the added traffic going through there. And then are these going to be built with gas utility? Does anybody know about that? And if it is that if they do bring gas lines in there, is that something that's going to be available to Town and Country? So that's really all I have to ask or to say.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition, please come forward.
Hello, council members. My name is Albert Nagy. I live at 130 West Leyte in Town and Country, and I have some concerns also. I'll touch on one that's been mentioned, the traffic problem. Turning east off of Schumacher on the McKinley, the car dealership there has their vehicles so far up front, you've got to get into the lane almost before you can turn left. So if something could be done with that, that's something I'd suggest. They're just too far up. You can't see that turn safely. Okay, another thing, I've lived in Town and Country for 18 years, and when I first bought into it, it was advertised as like a senior community more than anything. And I think with with the increase in traffic and everything, things have been mentioned earlier. I've got concerns about that because with these sales and possible rentals, you're going to have younger people coming in. and families, and I don't know that they'll mix. I'm not saying it won't, but we've kind of got different values as far as ages go. We're more into, I think, a peaceful, quiet community, which it's pretty much been that way the last couple of years or so. There's been a little increase in traffic maybe, and what was the other one? Here I go again. I forgot. Oh, as far as the acreage, 2.8 acres, to build all those units in there, it's going to really be a change from the current structure of the neighborhood. I don't see how there can be any continuation of having more openness, space between the homes, maybe not everybody piled up upon each other. It's just going to be totally, to me, it'll be a drastic change for that area. And what else? I think that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from the council? Mrs. Volker.
Thank you. I just had a comment, or it's kind of a question, because this issue about turning left onto McKinley's been brought up a couple of times. I'm just thinking that if the car dealership is obstructing visually people's ability to turn, we should probably talk to the car dealership and see if they could make an adjustment so, so that it could be safer. The other comment or question is, and other people, I guess I just want to throw this out there, would it be acceptable to have a right turn only onto McKinley? Since turning left is so difficult.
Well, you're going to increase the traffic then on Leyte. If they can't turn left.
So no,
They're going to
yeah.
increase ours.
Yeah, okay,
yeah.
great. I was just curious what your feelings were about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm an older guy, I like peace and quiet and a nice neighborhood, and, I realize time goes on, but it's a shame.
Yeah.
I moved in there for a quiet neighborhood, and it's been peaceful, good people in there, and,
But these people might be nice people too.
Yeah.
Might be a nice, quiet neighborhood, pretty new places.
yeah, what's
Anyway.
going to change the whole dynamic of the area there,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
That's a lot of units coming in, so.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Please come forward.
Hello, Sherry Roberts, 145 West Leyte. The buildings are going to be right in my backyard. My question is about the retention pond. Is it just going to be stagnant water sitting there? Are they going to put a nice little fountain, like you see at the apartment complexes to make it more desirable? I'm just worried about the smell, the mosquitoes, and a pond of just stagnant water sitting there. So that was my question. And yes, the semis down Leyte, there's a gazillion pebbles in front of my house right now for them tearing up the road. So,
All right, thank you.
I'll try to contact somebody.
Any other questions from the council? Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition, please come forward. Seeing no one, is there anyone participating remotely who wishes to speak in opposition? Hearing no one, are there any council members who wish to speak? Mr. Mamalante.
I just have a quick question on the staff report documents. It states that this property is Penn Harris Madison and not School City of Mishawaka. Is that correct?
Probably.
I would think it would be School City of Mishawaka as well.
Okay.
It's Penn.
It is Penn.
Dixie Mason has corrected me, it's BHM, so I learned a long time ago never to argue with her, so. And it makes sense with regard to how the attendance district bounces back and forth into the apartments and up and down. Great.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Ms. Mason.
Any other questions or comments from the council? Mr. Benicki.
Thank you, Mr. President. This has been an ongoing issue for a couple of years. the question becomes, we have somebody that owns the property. They've got the right to do within reason with the property what is best in their opinion. There's no doubt that there's definitely a shortage of houses in Mishawaka. His price points from what he's talking about seem to be right on spot. Some people talked about, green space and things like that. When we look at some of the apartments downtown, some of the newer folks, they don't worry about it. They would rather go on trips to the zoo, things like that, than cut their grass or work on their yard all day. So, the world has changed. There's so many, kids sit on their tablets all day rather than go out and play like they used to. We used to play football in the street, and they don't do that anymore. So, I just don't know that there's going to be that much of a change in traffic. I know there will be a little bit, but with everybody now that's driving up and down there and people that cut through, it's almost like speed limits. On Grape Road, a couple years ago, we changed the speed limits on Grape Road, and people were concerned because it was increased a few miles an hour. Well, the reality is there's just certain times where that traffic's regulated. Christmas time, you're not going more than 3 miles an hour at most. So, the same with some of this traffic. If it takes you longer to turn, then it is what it is. I don't think the traffic is there day and night because I live in the neighborhood myself and I drive that neighborhood. So there is some concern about that. I just think that the biggest fear is the fear of change. And I just don't think it's going to be that bad of a change. I think it's actually going to be a change for the better. We talk about property values. Everybody worries about their property taxes and values and taxes until they go to sell, and then they want the most for their property. So, it's the weight of justice that we have to figure out, and what's best. And for them reasons, I will be supporting this evening.
Thank you. Mr. Emmons.
Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, I want to thank all your constituents from that area for coming tonight and voicing your opinion, whether it was for or against. That's your right. And like I say, to see so many people from that little community come and express their, not for the development, and that they like the development where you're at in that. And it's been going on for 2 years, and these people keep coming back every time it comes to the council. And I appreciate people voicing their opinion, whether you're for or against something, to the council. That is your right, and I like to hear that. And I always vote for basically the constituents of an area of whether the most people are for or against. And for you to come out for 2 years and voice your opinion against this development, and I have nothing against Mr. Freed, and that. But I also recognize that it's your community. You're here to voice your opinion of what you think, what we should vote for, whether we should vote for it or against it. And by you coming out in your presence and being here and showing support that you do not want this in your neighborhood, it's not against the person, it's against his development and that. And I'm sure he has a good plan in that, but it's nothing what you want in your area. And I was brought up by my father of saying you listen to your constituents. It's not maybe what you want, it's what they want. I might think that is best for him or as a developer to come in, but it's not what you want. It's your community and that. And I always have trouble with saying I should vote in favor of something that nobody wants in that area. So I'm not going to be voting for it. I'm going to be voting no. And thank you for showing up, voicing your opinion, and I hope you continue to do that on anything that comes up. Your voice counts, whether you think it does or not, but it does. And it does, in my opinion. And thank you again for coming.
Thank you. Mr. Violi.
Thank you, Mr. President. So that's my district. You guys are my district. And back in the fall of 2024, I was sitting at the airport picking up some friends, and Mr. Freed reached out to me, said he was going to bring this back to the council. And I said, did you make some changes from the last time this was voted down? And he said, well, we made them before the vote, and I think we just need to I forget his exact words. And I said, well, if you haven't changed anything, don't bother. So I suggested to him that he reach out to the same people that were against it before, the HOA people, the neighborhood people, and I think he did. And it sounds like he did, because I've talked to a few people about this whole issue. I kept hearing sayings when Greg and Lacey and I met with the developer, with Mr. Freed. I kept hearing things like being a good neighbor. And it sounds like as these talks began, I really sensed that there was a lot of good open-mindedness between, I guess it would be the HOA group. I'm not real sure when we met with the HOA people if it was all HOA or if there was neighbors and the HOA. I'm not sure, but I know I was invited by the HOA. And the piggyback on what Mr. Emmons is saying, I agree that it's great that people come out and speak up against it. And I wish there was, and then I know some people are for it, strongly one way or the other, but I really wish there was, and there isn't, unfortunately for us, we're not going to object to it. We're okay with it. We're not crazy about it, but we can live with it. And I've had discussions. I called 4 or 5 people that live in that area this weekend because I wanted to talk to people that I know. And there was one person that called me first, and he was against it, and that's fine, and he gave me his reasons. The other 4 people I spoke to, 2 of them had no problem with it. They're not here tonight. They didn't want to come up and speak. They're, as the gentleman, like some people said, they're elderly, so they weren't going to come and speak against it. But a couple other people said, listen, we're not going to object to it. We're okay, we're going to live with it. And some are here, some aren't here. So I guess my point is, it's the people that are against it, I respect your opinion, but I almost wish there wasn't a category that said, can we hear the people that are okay with it? So at the end, that doesn't do us a lot of good because we have to vote on it, but I just want to say that, I just think the discussions that I listened in on, and for where it's gone from the beginning to now, I just thought it was going to be, how do I say this? I feel that there's not a consensus in the neighborhood and the HOAs, so that's left up to us now to kind of decipher what to do. That's the way it is, folks, and I appreciate everybody's opinion, but it's hard for us. I hope there's no hard grudges on however this vote goes, because at the end of the day, we're left to decide really what that area really wants, because I think that there's a silent majority that just isn't going to not going to be willing to come out and speak up for it or against it. That's it.
Thank you. Mr. Carroll.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll shift back a little bit to my concerns, and some of this is to Mr. Freed, and some of it's to fellow council members and city in general. Dealing with this issue with private roads a lot, the people who aren't here to speak today are the ones who will occupy these if it goes through. So I'd just like to talk about that very briefly. The biggest concern I get is that people who live on private streets pay the same taxes as everybody else, but they don't get the same city services. They don't have leaf removal, Christmas tree removal, and more importantly, they don't have snow removal. And these can be expensive contracts, and especially in smaller developments, smaller HOAs, and that with the legal issues, it can be problematic going forward. I have concerns about safety issues on private streets. Again, do our police and fire have access in emergency situations, disasters, that type of thing, when the city is not responsible for keeping that road free, clear, and open for those services? The financial burden, road replacement can be very expensive. We're talking at least 5 figures for this, and that requires a lot of planning ahead for these entities that own it. Private contracts, and as I talked about before, and just the administrative burden. I have a number of HOAs, and just having people who are willing to sit down and do these things and meet the legal requirements and have to deal with the ins and outs that we deal with as a city and cause us headaches, it's a lot harder the smaller you get to that. So those are certainly concerns. Had a good conversation with Mr. Prince today about that, so I felt very good after that call. Spoke directly with Mr. Freed, and today I appreciate your commitments to maintain the roads as long as you have any share of ownership in that. That's very important, and that it sounds like you're very much interested, if it is possible, to have the homeowners bear the responsibility for maintenance by covenant, if at all possible, so that we don't have this whose baby is it kind of situation. So, and then as for the city, going forward, the bigger picture, I would be very interested in finding some solution to this so that going forward, we don't have multiple private roads going through that, could potentially cause problems for this public-private partnership later on. So I think my concerns have been satisfied. I will be supporting this, but with heavy reservations, and hoping that if this does go through as a good neighbor, that you'll honor that and make sure that this doesn't create an issue for future residents or the city.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? Ms. Hahn?
I'm just going to take a moment to echo what Mr. Emmons said. Although I represent the whole city, I sit at large. I do live in the 1st District, which is home to the West End, which is another tight-knit community, much like yours. And when things change in that neighborhood, people tend to get a little nervous. Even when they were starting to improve Rose Park, there was some trepidation there. And Mr. Bednicki had mentioned too, sometimes it's the thought of change and the unknown of what's going to happen. But I do appreciate the developer working so closely with the HOA and the board. That's something in my short time on the council I've never seen, which was very impressive, to host the meetings, to make changes to his plans, and then also to have all you folks continue to come out. Before I was on council for the last several years, which I've learned, and even tonight, that is, you're right, we do listen to you. I like seeing it, and some of the concerns weren't things that I had originally thought of, so just wanted to say thank you for coming out, and I understand wanting to protect your neighborhood and just the trepidation with change of things that could come. But tonight I will be supporting this.
Thank you. Mr. Mamalante?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. And as I mentioned earlier, I want to thank Mr. Freed and also the folks that showed up this evening, not only just for this evening, but for the constant communication and concerns that you've brought to our attention. But more importantly, I think, it's good for us to see that you guys had met and tried to have conversations and come up with a solution that fits for all. And I know, Mr. Freed, I think he had mentioned his ideal plan would be to sell them all, but there may be some chances where he may have to rent them to kind of help fund some of that project. And just because they start out as a rental doesn't mean that they have to stay as a rental. He could sell that unit as well. So as we all kind of explained, it's a very difficult decision, at least for myself. And what I tend to do in situations like that is, what would I like to see done if I lived there, if this was in my backyard? I understand some of your questions and concerns, and I think they're all valid. But for me, I think if I were to live there, what would scare me more than the traffic and the change in demographics, I think what would scare me more is what could go there. And the way that it's zoned currently, we would have zero control. You guys would have zero voice in the matter. So based on the fear of the unknown, I think, to Mrs. Hazen's point, the city is in dire need of family-owned properties. So with all those things being said, that I will be voting in favor of this evening.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? Mrs. Hazen?
This has been a really hard decision, but I will be voting in favor for this tonight. But I would like to tell each and every person in this neighborhood, as this comes about, you can reach out to any person on this council and come to us with concerns or with things that are not going on. All of our numbers are listed on the website. You are more than welcome to call, and we will help in any way that we can. So I just wanted to say that we are happy to help in the process.
Thank you. Other questions, comments? Then I do have a couple questions for Mr. Knight and Mr. Freed. We heard from a couple residents with regard to the retention pond, and I want to focus on that initially. My understanding from attending some of the meetings was that Mr. Freed was committed to not just fencing the perimeter to provide a buffer between himself and the properties to the north, but that there would also be interior fencing around the retention pond itself. Am I correct on that?
Yes, may I approach?
Yes, you may.
Oh, picture being more than 1,000 words. Sir, the privacy fence is going to go up to this point of the pond, and then a probably chain security fence will go around the pond, and this triangle that's north and closest to Main is going to remain undeveloped and wooded. And if anybody wants to see that, I'd be happy to.
So for the record, would you agree with me that there will in fact be a privacy fence on the perimeter of the property up to the woods in the far northeast corner?
Yes, sir.
And then there will also be interior fencing that surrounds the retention pond?
Yes, sir.
And then with regard to the question, that was a good one, with regard to standing water, none of us would want to have a bunch of standing water next door to our house. Is it Mr. Freed's intent to comply with all the city ordinances and local health codes and what have you, so that that retention pond does not become a mosquito-infested swamp that folks in that neighborhood have to put up with?
Short answer, yes. If you would like more clarification, Terry Lang could address it. As retention ponds are retention ponds are retention ponds, the amount of water fluctuates, but I don't believe it's intended to have 100% of water in it at all times.
And that's my understanding as well, that a retention pond anticipates that there be some receding of the water into the groundwater so that it won't be a concrete-based lake. It'll be a place to capture runoff from the surrounding real estate that then will filter down into the earth. Is that your understanding as well?
That's my understanding.
Okay. Then with regard to traffic, we've heard a lot about that, and it's a justifiable concern, in my opinion. There was a question that was posed rhetorically with respect to whether Mr. Freed would be willing to cooperate with the neighborhood to the extent that they're going to advocate for the city to address traffic concerns in the area. Is he willing to commit to that this evening?
Yes, every opportunity, safety, neighbors, good neighborship is what we're looking for, yes.
Okay, thank you. Folks, have my questions elicited any questions from any of you, from Mr. Knight or Mr. Freed? Mr. Violi.
Somebody brought up a point about, you're going to have NIPSCO and Mishawaka Utilities, is that correct? Or is NIPSCO not available in that area? Because I think somebody said that they'd like to see how they could get NIPSCO. I don't know, I didn't know that.
So originally, the plan was to have NIPSCO. Looked like there was electrical, obviously you can run electrical there. And then I saw a gas line that's on McKinley. So looking into the extension of those utilities is a question mark. But, I mean, we're just initially trying to get everything rezoned. Whether the utilities are going to be electric or gas is up in the air.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for the gentleman? Mr. Mamolante.
Since they're up there, and to address, I believe Mrs. Roberts, or a female that came up and asked about the realtors. I believe that you had mentioned that you do have two in mention, and you're just kind of further out of the project than you anticipated. So, but you do have two in mind, or a couple in mind, and you plan to move forward as the project gets closer. Can you confirm that, please?
Correct, yeah. I mean, we're 3 years out from, or 2 to 3 years out from starting the development, and then from that point, I mean, to solidify or give you a name now would be unrealistic.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you for comments tonight. We appreciate your consideration, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, and as has been stated by my colleagues, several of my colleagues, we appreciate everybody's attendance here this evening and the way that you've advocated for your neighborhood. It does make a difference. For me, whenever we have these issues, particularly issues where there is significant concern on the part of a neighborhood, I tend to look at a couple different factors. The first is whether we've listened to the concerns of the neighborhood and what's the fair outcome for that particular neighborhood that's so close to the proposed development. And this evening, you've convinced me, and I suspect my colleagues as well, that there is a general traffic concern in your area. There's something that needs to be addressed. And we don't have the ability to be able to fix it, nor does Mr. Freed, but I am confident that based upon what we've heard from you now 2 times on 2 separate occasions, that I believe you've gotten the attention of city government, and I can't promise you a particular outcome, but I can promise you that this council will work with the administration to see what can be done through the police department, through the engineering department, through the traffic department. Whatever we can do to address the traffic, I'm confident that we will. I also think it's important for us to be fair to the developers that come before us, because all of us have a desire and a right to be able to make use of our property. And I echo the gratitude to Mr. Freed for his willingness to listen and to make some adjustments and even concessions to his proposal as he's gone forward. This is much different, in my opinion, than it was the first time around. That move to having individual lots as opposed to just one comprehensive rental business plan, I think is very significant. So I appreciate you listening and making those changes. But again, I think that everybody, whether they own a residence or whether they own commercial property, has some right to be able to develop it. I started thinking back to a couple years ago when this matter was last in front of us, and at that time I voted against it. But I went back and I checked the minutes just to refresh my memory, and at that time I said, at some point, this gentleman has a right to develop his property. And I think that he has made a significant improvement in what he has proposed. And then the other thing that I think we need to always keep in mind is what's fair to the community. It's important to this individual neighborhood what goes on there, but there's some interest that everybody who lives in Mishawaka has in making sure that we're doing the right thing with regard to development. And my role as somebody who's a councilman at large, as was referenced, is to represent not just your neighborhood, but the entire community. And I agree with the comments that have been made by Mrs. Hazen and others that we have an affordable housing program problem in Mishawaka. We need to be open to developing not just this lot, but all similarly situated lots within the city of Mishawaka. The right common sense development is good for Mishawaka, and it allows us not only to support the city, not only to help stabilize our tax rate, but it's good for the school corporations, whether it's Penn Harris, Madison, or School City, to be able to have new housing where families can move into the school corporations is important. The other thing is, this property has sat vacant for going on 40 years. And I know that because my mom lived on West Leyte when I was in high school. And even when it was the Pizza Hut delivery place that I also remember, Mr. Violi, it still was primarily a wooded lot. And who amongst us wouldn't want to keep that? It's a very legitimate, understandable perspective that you have to want to maintain that. Where I struggle with it is that comes at the expense of somebody else to maintain that idyllic country-like atmosphere. And again, this has been vacant for quite some time. As an attorney, and based upon the oath of office we take, I always have to look at the legal considerations here. And here, the staff report, I agree, has memorialized the fact that this petition meets the legal standards, both in terms of consistency with our comprehensive plan, whether this is the highest and best use, because again, this is a proposal to have this property reflect the same zoning as the property to the north, which is R3. And then that this is going to be a responsible development and growth, not only for this neighborhood, but for the community as a whole. So I appreciate the comments that everyone has made. I appreciate the passion that you bring to the issue and the fact that you've advocated for your neighborhood. But based upon those factors, and in particular, based upon what Indiana law obligates us under our oath to consider, not what we want to do, but what the law obligates us to do, I also am going to be voting in favor of this evening. Are there any additional questions or comments from the council? And hearing none, I call for the question. Madam Clerk, would you please poll the council?
Mrs. Hazen?
Yes.
Mrs. Volker?
Yes.
Mr. Carroll?
Yes.
Mr. Benicki?
Yes.
Mr. Emmons?
No.
Ms. Hahn?
Yes.
Mr. Mamalenti?
Yes.
Mr. Violi?
Yes.
Mr. Hicksonball?
Yes.
Proposed ordinance passes 8-1. Proposed ordinance number 2025-11, an ordinance amending Chapter 137 of the Municipal Code of the City of Mishawaka, Indiana, as from time to time amended, commonly known as the zoning ordinance of 1966 of the City of Mishawaka, Indiana. This is to rezone from C1 General Commercial to R1 Single Family Residential for an existing house at 115 Virginia Street.
Thank you. May we have the committee report, please?
Yes, Mr. President. To the members of the Common Council of the City of Mishawaka, your Committee on Land Use Planning, to whom is referred the matter of proposed ordinance 2025-11, report that they have examined said matter and, in their opinion, should be adopted. This is signed by the members present, and I move for its acceptance.
Second.
Thank you. A motion has been made and seconded to approve the committee report. Any additional questions or comments? And hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. We will now move into second reading and public hearing on proposed ordinance 2025-11. Anyone wishing to speak in favor, if you would, please come forward. Is there anyone here to speak with regard to 115 Virginia Street? Please come forward.
Hi, everyone on the council. My name is Dania Hester. Address 52324 Prescott Avenue, South Bend. And I'm here as a representative for Rye Family Acquisition that just recently purchased this property, and we are asking for it to be rezoned from a C1 to a R1 for an existing property, existing home.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the council? Mrs. Volker.
Thank you. Hi, the financing company asking for the rezoning? Is that the reason that you want to have it rezoned from commercial to residential?
Partly, they're asking for it to be rezoned. They can be able to go forward with us because we use hard money. So we have a little bit more flexibility than the traditional homeowner that's looking for financing, but we want to be able to help homeowners avoid any hurdles that they might come against. So we want to go ahead and do that prep work and help them make it a lot easier for any homeowner that wants to get into a new home.
Okay, well, thank you so much.
Thank you. Mr. Benicki.
Thank you. Will this be owner occupied or a rental?
We will be selling it for owner occupied.
Thank you.
Other questions from the council? Mrs. Hazen.
Hi, I've been wanting to stop by. I see you guys out there working all the time, and that was the exact question. And I live very close to the house, and I'm delighted that you guys are going to sell it and make it homeowner occupied. So really excited about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else from the council? Thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor? If you would, please come forward. Then is there anyone participating remotely who wishes to speak? Is there anyone with us this evening who wishes to speak in opposition? Please come forward. And is there anyone participating remotely who wishes to speak in opposition? Are there any council members who wish to speak? If not, then I call for the question. Madam Clerk, would you please poll the council?
Mrs. Hazen?
Yes.
Mrs. Volker?
Yes.
Mr. Carroll?
Yes.
Mr. Benicki?
Yes.
Mr. Emmons?
Yes.
Ms. Hahn?
Yes.
Mr. Mamalenti?
Yes.
Mr. Violi?
Yes.
Mr. Hicksonball?
Yes.
Proposed ordinance passes 9-0. Proposed ordinance number 2025-12, authorizing special utility, I'm sorry, reading off of that, not reading the way I'm supposed to. An ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Mishawaka authorizing special utility service agreements for economic development and customized utility needs. We do have a request that this be postponed to the June 16th meeting.
Thank you. At this time, the chair would entertain a motion to postpone second reading and public hearing on proposed ordinance 2025-12 until our regularly scheduled meeting of June 16th of this year.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. A motion has been made and seconded to postpone second reading and public hearing on proposed ordinance 2025-12 until our regularly scheduled council meeting of June 16th, 2025. Any additional questions or comments? And hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, so the matter will be postponed until June 16th. And with that, we will move into privilege of the floor. At this time, members of the public are invited to the podium to speak with respect to non-agenda items only under privilege of the floor. Please.
Hello, everyone. Some of you I already know, some of you I haven't met yet. My name is Andy Rutten. I live at 55304 Cedar Trail. Was recently elected as a new council member for St. Joe County, and I represent the Osceola and the eastern part of Mishawaka. Never been here before, so I thought I'd come and introduce myself. I don't have any pressing concerns at this time. I did want to make a brief comment. I think Mishawaka is doing pretty well and is a good fiscal position moving forward now that Indiana's approved the property tax cut. In our community, the number one issue being discussed is a sharp increase in property taxes, and seniors are particularly affected by that. So Indiana revised the tax law to change how local government entities such as our city and county governments can levy taxes. Now is a good time to revisit spending strategy to find ways to improve efficiency and realign focus to help serve voters. One example on how to do this is how the state and federal governments, they both eliminated the dubious DEI programs. Hopefully spending cuts won't affect core services. We still need to keep our neighborhoods safe and our roads in good condition. So I just wanted to say, with the county and the city of Mishawaka, let's cooperate and ensure that all our local governments can serve our community well. That's all I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the council? And Councilman, I appreciate you being here. I too am in favor of both entities cooperating, including our friends in the city of South Bend, where it makes sense. And I do agree with you that I hear fairly regularly from people with regard to property taxes, especially as those property tax bills just went out and people had some sticker shock, to say the least. I suspect that we differ with regard to the merits of the legislation that was passed in Indianapolis. I'm all in favor of cutting property taxes, but what I understand is that the benefit for the homeowner is going to far be outweighed by the detriment to the finances of every governmental entity, including St. Joe County and the city of Mishawaka. And I fear that it's going to put us in the unfortunate predicament of having to decide what valuable service are we not going to be able to provide the same way that we provided it in the past based upon that action that was taken. So we'll work through it, and hopefully we'll be able to work through it together. But I think it's fair for the public to understand that there is a significant amount of concern and a significant amount of effort and work that's going to go into trying to navigate through that legislation moving forward. But I appreciate your attendance here this evening and your comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Yep.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak under privilege of the floor? Then is there anyone participating remotely who wishes to speak under privilege of the floor? Thank you. Next is unfinished business, of which there is none. New business. Is there any new business to come before the council? Mr. Carroll.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a quick announcement that the Second District Community Meeting will take place this month on Thursday, June 12th at the Blair Hills Pool Complex. All Mishawaka residents are welcome to attend.
Thank you, sir. Other new business? And then hearing none, a motion to adjourn would be in order.
So moved.
We're adjourned. Thank you, folks.